Good
card.
afternoon,
Nothing
everybody.
you don't know how to get a hold of me.
Tuning in online with Dr. Jenkins, and right now I'm just a disembodied voice for what you're seeing on the screen. You should be seeing Kevin Stock and a portion of Lori Poland showing up on the screen. Wave to everyone, Lori. See, there you go. All right. So this is another of our lunch and learn sessions. We've had several different topics over the course of the year. A lot of them have been employment related, but also always want to dive into that arena of technology, because that's not going away, and in fact it's become a bigger part of our lives. So Kevin Stock with RCR Technology Group is our featured speaker today, teaching old dogs new tricks. We're not making any comments on those who are attending, just trying to get you tech savvy. I'm bad at naming things, so that's how we came up with that title. But Kevin, I'm going to turn it over to you. But before I do, just a couple of housekeeping things. If you're watching online, you can put any questions in the question or the chat window. We'll get to those at the end of the presentation. But if you think of something when it's coming up, go ahead and
No,
put that
I
in the
think you're
chat
fine.
window.
I'm more comfortable with you. I'm sorry.
So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Kevin. Give me 1 second to get your PowerPoint up and running on the webinar portion, and we should be good to go, Kevin.
Let me know if I walk out of frame.
You're good. I got the long shot on it.
All right, great. So as Doug said, Kevin Stock, RCR Technology Group, and it is teaching old dogs new tricks, and we're not calling anybody dogs today. But at RCR Technology Group, we handle managed IT services, networking, website design, and we are a Microsoft 365 partner. Those are our 4 main areas that we focus on. And what those areas basically mean is that we provide IT support for small businesses, and we're talking 100 employees and less. And we have had clients bigger, or have clients bigger than that in terms of an overall employee standpoint, but we have a large small business footprint in this area, and that's where we really like to focus, and that's where we are the most comfortable supporting our clients. So there's an old way to do things and a new way to do things. So today I'm going to be discussing sort of a little bit of the old way and comparing that to the new way, how it's changed, how it's the same, and what to do moving forward. So first, in your journals, you are handed a short list of definitions of topics and words that I'm going to say today that you might not know what they are. And these are my definitions. These are as easy to understand as they can really be said. If we looked at these definitions, if another IT professional looked at these definitions, I would probably be scorched, because it's like, oh, that's not really, but it is. This is, for the most part, what these things mean, so that any end user can understand them. End user, person using a computer. An end user is many other things, but that for the most part, that's just the person using a computer at a business. We're going to be using words like workstation or endpoint, network device or appliance, firewall, router, switch, Wi-Fi access point. We're going to talk about the cloud. What is the cloud? We hear that all the time. What does it really mean? Redundancy is going to be talked about. VoIP, or voice over IP. Encryption, ransomware. I'm sure you've seen ransomware in headlines all over the place in the last couple of years. And EDR, or endpoint detection and response, which is an antivirus specifically aimed at helping against ransomware. We'll get more into that soon. So to jump right in, the first thing that I want to talk about is old way, meaning a lot of times businesses, even up to 100 employees, still have their IT support based on a break fix model, meaning that nothing gets attention in the technology until something breaks. Once it breaks, you sort of have to just deal with the fallout of whatever it is that broke, whatever data might have been lost, and all those things, and then decide at that point, what do you have in your budget to be able to fix those things? So a few examples of how a break fix client or a business is operating today is they often have different antivirus throughout their organization, expiring at different times. You rely on Windows auto updates and end user interaction to make sure Windows and apps are updated, often ignoring important security updates. How many times have you gotten on a computer? There's an update that's available, several updates that are available, and you click away because you have work to do. You got to get to those later. Well, sometimes you never get to them. Sometimes those updates are important in terms of security. So if a known threat is out there and you haven't updated against that known threat, you're absolutely vulnerable for that threat. And that's where it's important to make sure that those updates go through. You're often waiting for something to break before it receives any attention. Kind of already covered that. It's kind of the whole general idea. And you have unattended backup, if any at all, meaning that maybe you have things backed up. Do you have the right things backed up? Is it important information? Would it be devastating if you lost it? And are you looking at it every day to make sure that those backups were successful? Likely not. So, old way, new way. It's managed services. This is the proactive way to handle the situation. Now, break fix is a little less common these days. A lot of small businesses have some sort of managed services already. We're going to go through not only do you have managed services, but are your managed services enough in the 2021 climate? So the thing about managed services is you have unified antivirus throughout your organization. It always updates, it never expires. So you don't have Norton on 3 machines, McAfee on 4 machines, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe no antivirus at all on any of your machines. Now, Windows Defender in Windows 10 is a baked-in antivirus, but if you don't update Windows, you don't have the proper security definitions for those things. It's a kind of a major vulnerability. Managed services also automates important Windows and app updates with a focus on security and patches. So those pop-ups that you see at the bottom of your screen to ask you to update things that you ignore because you have to do work, those tasks can be automated after hours. So that the next day you come in, those updates and patches have been put through. You haven't done anything. Your computer has restarted if it needs to restart, and we're getting reports back to our dashboard that these patches worked. Sometimes they don't work. Sometimes they fail. We get those reports too. We're able to force it to go through again, find out what the issue is, and resolve that. Managed services also reports health of the network and endpoints 24/7 to a dashboard that notifies your MSP to issues often before the end user notices the issue. There are things that happen behind the scenes that would affect you if automated processes weren't helping you along. And so a break fix client would have something that, hey, this pops up every time I try to open this program, or there's this error that I always click out of when I open this program. Well, that may be because your computer is maybe 6 months out of date. And just by putting in those updates would resolve that issue of that error every time you open up a program that you need to open up. But every day, it's a problem that you face when, if you have managed services, that problem doesn't exist because everything's up to date. Managed services also automates backups of all endpoints and saves them to an offsite cloud encrypted location for easy restoration in the event of data loss. It's probably one of the most important things in terms of what managed services can provide, because you can protect yourself, you can have all kinds of different protections, and you can be as careful as you want to be, but if you get the right threat, or the wrong threat, technically, then it can still end up through and possibly harming your data, and it's gone unless there's a backup of it. If there is a backup of it, you're in good shape. Your downtime is way less. You can restore that data that's been backed up. It's been backed up every single day, should be anyway. And you just got that little bit of downtime for restoration, but you've got what you need. I don't know how many times we run into clients that call us in a panic, or clients that aren't even clients yet, and they call us because they're a break fix. They've been in break fix technology forever, and they finally call us. They finally do the Google search and say, all right, you guys do IT in Finley. We have this computer that has everything on it, and it won't power on. And then we did get the power on and nothing's there. What can we do? Well, if you have things backed up, you're in a lot better shape. If you don't, then we got to have a whole different conversation. Maybe it's retrievable, maybe it's not. Are some things retrievable, others not? You have to start making those decisions on what's important and what isn't important. But to automate the backups, to make sure that those backups are reporting back to a dashboard, to make sure that somebody is looking at that every single day, means that you have a lot less to worry about in regard to any kind of data loss whatsoever. Managed services also actively scans the network for threats and sensitive information that end users are often unaware are stored on their devices. This is a huge one, and not every MSP does this. There are a lot of small businesses, doctors' offices, lawyers' offices, so many small businesses that have to abide by certain audits and things, especially for their insurance coverage. And sometimes you don't realize as an end user, somebody just using their computer, getting emails, downloading things that you need from your customers and clients, that they've sent you their social security number, credit card numbers, account numbers and routing numbers. And you're, okay, great, thank you for sending that. I need that information. Then you don't realize that it's stored in another place on your computer. In fact, maybe you don't even know where it's stored. Maybe you don't know where it was downloaded to. You've clicked download. It came up in the download thing there. You saw what you needed to see. You put it into your program as you needed to. You clicked out of it, but where is that on your computer? Okay, so what if a threat comes into your network or onto one of your devices? Well, if that threat is smart enough, it can look for sensitive information, social security numbers, credit card numbers, those kinds of things. Can you become liable for having that information, or can it be tracked back to you that this customer's credit card was breached at your location? And the answer is yes, absolutely. It's all based on IP addresses. If there's enough searching that's done, and there can be, if there's enough searching done, they can track it down to the IP address assigned to your company through your internet connection. Every business that has an internet connection has an IP address dedicated to their physical address, so it can be tracked to the same place. You don't want that to happen. You probably have insurance to be able to avoid that. But as we go on each and every year, getting the right insurance to cover yourself in those cases means that you need to have certain things in place. Something like actively scanning the network for the sensitive information on a daily basis, or at least a weekly basis, to make sure that that kind of stuff is found before a threat finds it and remediated, removed from where it should not be. Lastly, managed services monitors and filters web traffic to avoid navigating to a malicious or otherwise inappropriate site. And I say that from the aspect of sites that are malicious that can be a threat, but also from a work standpoint, from your daily activity. If somebody is streaming Pandora and watching YouTube in your organization all day, every day, that person is hogging a great deal of bandwidth from what you have as an overall internet connection at your business. And those kinds of things can be blocked because ads are popping up all the time. Constant different things are streaming at all times. Now, we live in an age where most of what we get is streaming, not unlike what we are doing literally today. So we don't want to be able to block those things. We don't want to have to block those things that are educational, business related. Even YouTube can be business related when you're looking at things for your line of work, that kind of thing. So what you can do, what we're able to do essentially, is monitor the traffic, blacklist and whitelist things as individual things need to be done for your overall network, and then for the users. Say your administration, you want to be able to watch TED Talks and all kinds of different things. So you want the administration to have the ability to go out to YouTube and to be able to do that kind of thing. But a standard employee, you'd like to limit their access to that. Well, you can do that on an individualized basis per workstation. You can keep certain things from being able to be navigated to. But the point is, the big benefit to that bottom thing is putting that kind of structure in place to avoid these things is helping to stay away from the malicious stuff. And then you can get a little bit more granular as you're trying to block, blacklist, or whitelist those Facebook, YouTube, those kinds of things that are very ad-based and could potentially become threats. So, in summary, break fix is reactive and can cause serious downtime and devastating data loss, whereas managed services are proactive. They can greatly reduce or eliminate downtime and devastating data loss, saving the company thousands of dollars or even saving the company from closing its doors. I've unfortunately seen this in a couple of cases, even locally. And you suffer a big enough loss and you may not be able to recover from that, not fully. And that's worst case scenario. But when you lose data, when it's something that you're talking about every single day, it is the worst case scenario at that time before you get recovered from that in whatever way you can be. So switching gears, something a little more lighthearted than the doom and gloom of, oh my goodness, what could happen? And if it happens, how bad is it? Well, that is all to try to prevent that. But I want to move to something else, Microsoft 365. Microsoft 365 is what it's called now. It's been called that for about a year, and it used to be Office 365. Before that, it was just Microsoft Office. Before that, it was Microsoft Word with Clippy. Before that, it was Microsoft Works. Whatever you want to call it, today it's called Microsoft 365. And when you're thinking about Microsoft Office, as we kind of really know it, you really think about these first few things: Word, Excel, PowerPoint, maybe Outlook. Then you got Publisher, Access, OneDrive, Skype. There's so much more. Business related, there's much, much more. There's no way that I'd be able to cover everything that Microsoft 365 does. And frankly, I don't know everything that they do. It changes literally daily. But the things that we know and have been able to implement with our clients are what I'm going to talk about today. And that is email through Microsoft 365, OneDrive, Teams, and To Do. Okay. And I have talked about a few of these things when I did a presentation for the chamber about a year ago. But there's some updates, obviously, because the year's gone by. So I want to kind of talk about what can be done with those things. And since then, I've gained some traction with current clients and some new clients in terms of questions about these things. It's these things in Microsoft 365 have become more popular. People have wanted to use them, but they don't know really where to start. And so we help them sort of understand that and be able to get started off on the right foot. So email, this is hugely important. It starts with your domain. What is a domain? Do you guys know what a domain is?
Is it your server?
No, kind of, maybe. Well, it depends on who you are. But like your domain with your business is just your .com, your .net, .co, and .org. .org is not specifically used by nonprofits, but commonly used by nonprofits. Okay. These are all things that you, I'm sure, have clicked a link on or even had to type in. These are the usual ones. You got all kinds of different what they call vanity domains anymore. Vanity, extensions on those where you can get it to be .doctor, .dentist, all these different things. But your general ones are these things. This is a domain. So one of the things that we talk about with maybe a company that's using a Gmail or AOL or Yahoo for their company email is that they don't know first how to purchase a domain. And they think that by purchasing a domain, it costs a ton of money. And you've got to like do all kinds of red tape and paperwork and craziness and get all this stuff done. And they just don't understand it. So they're like, you know what? I've had my Gmail or, you know, I've had my AOL since 1995. And now it's free. It's been free since the early 2000s or before. And I just have it and it's established and I like it. And my customers like it. And I don't want to change and I don't want to spend all this money on a domain. Well, the average cost of a domain is $12 a year. This is no joke. If you find the right domain, typically the right domain, you can go to GoDaddy, Microsoft, any of these places, and you can spend $12 and you can own your domain. And you know, you've got other things that you can attach to it, but that's kind of where a company like us comes in and says, okay, do you want domain privacy? What does that mean? Blah, 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 blah. We can get in depth, but the fact is the root cost of that domain is $12. Usually for purchasing a domain, you're not going to pay more than about $25 if you really add things onto it that you want. And you can buy like 3 and 5 years and 10 years at a time and save even this. So you can be even less than $12 a year if you pay for a lot of years at a time. So let's talk about the benefits of professional email. I touched on this a little bit, but benefits of professional email are more control, spam filtering, and backup. You cannot back up an AOL email unless you download all the emails and put them onto a drive and then upload that to the cloud, and many steps that you're going to take. And your old AOL account is probably receiving quite a few emails a day. So it's going to be pretty cumbersome for you to do each day to back those things up. More control, I'm going to expand on that a little bit further in these next points, but and then spam filtering is a major deal. When you get a free email from Gmail, Yahoo, whatever, you're going to get spam, and that's because your email is free to you, but these people that supply email addresses have this server space paid for somehow, and it's with advertisements. So by selling your information essentially to these advertisers, you get free email. And so these advertisers are going to, for sure, email you on a regular basis, probably multiple times a day, talking about whatever sales that they have going on that day. Or you only have 15 minutes on this particular sale to save 75% off, blah, blah, blah. It's just going to be a ton of spam in your business email where you're going to be operating your business. That doesn't really work so well. So you get user employee management, and this is where it comes into the more control. So you have an organization, say you have 25 people in your organization that have email. And you know, the president of the company uses his AOL and everybody else uses their Gmail accounts. This really is a thing. This really absolutely still happens today in 2021. Everybody just kind of uses a Gmail, whatever. So it's their name.company@gmail.com. Okay. Well, essentially, because Gmails are personal emails or Yahoo or whatever, these emails are their individuals. Their individual mailboxes. Technically, the person, that employee, technically owns that account. They could leave with it. All the contacts, everything that they've received from your clients and all the back and forth that they've done, literally their portion of operating your business can be taken with them legally. It can be. And from that standpoint of things, because there is turnover, because people do leave jobs, and sometimes not always in a positive way, you need to be able to control how that person is accessing the email once they do depart. You need to be able to control the level of permissions that they have if they're promoted to a higher role. You need to be able to share certain things with them that maybe you weren't able to before, or if you share something with them, you don't share it to everybody in the organization. So much more control in that regard. So user employee management is incredibly effective in that regard. Distribution lists in shared mailboxes. So things like contact at, info at, support at, billing at, There are ways to set these things up as distribution lists and shared mailboxes. Briefly, a distribution list is an email address that technically doesn't have a user behind it, but only sends the email to the inbox of the users that are members of that distribution list, okay? This is incredibly effective, again, when employees change roles, maybe leave the company. You don't have to change who's monitoring that email because it's just a distribution list that goes into those individual users' email boxes, okay? Also, and I'm sorry, the shared mailboxes are mailboxes that members, particular users can be members of that shared mailbox, and they can check that separate mailbox. So it doesn't come in and flood their inbox. They just have access to that shared mailbox at all times. And you can, again, permission levels, people that are able to see those things. And then you can send email from these mailboxes instead of user accounts. One perfect example of that is when you're sending out your invoices to your customers. Do you want that to come from your personal email, or do you want that to come from billing@yourcompany.com? Probably from billing, just so that they know this is legitimately, first, from the billing department, secondly, from this vendor that I have that's invoicing me and it's proper. And so it's confirmation that I'm receiving a legitimate bill from a legitimate vendor from their billing department. When I have questions, I will reply to this email and it will go to the billing department, which is probably a distribution list going to all those involved in the billing department. What if that's just one person? What if the billing department is just one person? Doesn't matter. You can still go to billing and that one person will receive it. We're talking about small businesses here, so I understand that a billing department may not be vast. It could just be one person. That's okay. We don't need to necessarily have those invoices coming from, Karen@yourcompany.com. You can come to billing, because if Karen stops working for you, then you got to totally change how your billing goes out instead of just having it constantly coming from billing. It doesn't matter who it comes into when billing is replied to, or somebody emails the billing distribution list. That name can change all the time, but billing stays the same all the time. It's continuity. The multi-factor authentication. This is getting more and more prevalent. Now you can set up multi-factor authentication on a free email account these days. There's major differences between multi-factor authentication on a free email account and multi-factor authentication on a business account, and those kinds of controls. Multi-factor authentication on a business account takes a lot more verification to be able to access that account. And you have to set up particular things to do that. So I think the first time I'm going to say this today, security is not always convenient. It's not always convenient to go through multi-factor authentication. It's not always convenient to make sure that things are set up this way and to have this kind of continuity and security. But there are reasons that these things are put in place. Ransomware is one of those big reasons. Viruses are one of those big reasons. So multi-factor authentication is a major factor for your professional email. And then HIPAA and PCI compliance. These are major areas. And each year, those, to stay HIPAA compliant and to stay PCI compliant, those questionnaires and those things are getting more and more difficult to pass. When you get your audit, when you get from your merchant services, when you get a questionnaire and they are scanning your network now, they're finding all kinds of different things that they're questioning, and you have to have a response to these things. Why is this port open on your network? Why is what we're seeing this thing, it's you're not PCI compliant, big red X. Nope, not PCI compliant. It's like, wait a minute. First off, I've been using this merchant services for like 25 years. Never had a problem before. Secondly, I haven't made any changes to my network. Nothing's been different. I'm running from the same internet service provider. I'm running the same everything. I haven't changed anything at all. Why am I now all of a sudden not passing? And quite simply, it's just because the security minimums change every single year because of the threat landscape that we're in now. And lastly, it's just more professional. Like I mentioned, having something coming from billing@yourcompany.com. I just before this presentation today, I received an email, and the person said, "Is this spam?" I'm worried about it because I didn't pay for McAfee antivirus, but I just received a bill for McAfee antivirus, and they said they charged my account. And I looked at it, and at a quick glance, it was something@gmail.com. And so I replied with, "You will never receive an invoice for McAfee from somebody's Gmail account. This is completely spam. Take a look at your bank account, make sure that nothing fishy is going on there. Make sure you keep eyes on it for the next couple of days. Don't open the attachment, right? Which they had already done. And then also, you know what? Don't forward me the spam either. You could just let me know that you received something. I can remote into your computer. We can check it out together. But if it is a threat, don't spread it. Don't do that." But and I have some information on that as well. We sent out a newsletter, and I have some really good methods to when you think you might be receiving spam emails. So anyway, more professional. If again, in this threat landscape, if somebody's been burned by receiving an invoice from a Gmail account, they may be now defensive. So if you're then sending a legitimate invoice from your company and it's coming from your Gmail, they're like, "Wait a minute, is this really you? Is this really an invoice from you?" And it might go unpaid because they're like, "I wasn't going to open that. You sent me some PDF from your Gmail account. And yeah, I know that I owe you $10,000, but I didn't know that invoice was from you. I thought I was still waiting on it." That kind of thing. Oh, yeah. So, and again, let's go back to cost. The cost of professional email can be as low as $5 per month. That's per user, technically, but you're talking $60 a year. There are small businesses that have one employee. You can spend $60 a year, have all this benefit and all this control, and to be able to. What if your business is one person, and you're the billing department, and you're the contact department, and you're the sales department? Well, you can send emails from sales, and you can send emails from billing, and you can send emails from these things, and when they reply or they send emails to these things, you receive them. It's just, if you're a one-man show or one-woman show, you can, and you're planning to grow your business, maybe in the next year you want to have 5 employees. Well, that infrastructure is already in place, and you can assign people into those distribution lists and shared mailboxes. All right. OneDrive. What is OneDrive? It used to be called SkyDrive, hence the cloud. When it first came out, it was called SkyDrive, and I was on it like right away, because I'm like, well, this could be incredibly beneficial. So plus they were offering free storage space, so I was like, yeah, I'll try it out, definitely, because you've got hard drives sitting everywhere and putting all kinds of different media in places, and how can I share it with people? Well, OneDrive is now OneDrive personal, but also for business. OneDrive is a legitimate place to be able to keep business information. So it's cloud-based file storage. It's easy file sharing with permissions. Permissions is incredibly key for a business. Real-time collaboration. I'll expand on that a little bit further. Literally, you and another person in your company can be working on the same document at the same time. These days, you can literally see them typing as you're looking at the document on your computer. You got a little icon at the top of who's in that document with you, and you both can literally type at the same time. You can make fun of each other for misspelling something, and Word puts the little red squiggly line underneath it, or poor grammar and the blue squiggly line underneath it. Real-time collaboration. It's never been done before this in the last couple of years, and it really works. Automatic file backup. I'll expand on that a little bit more. And file version history, which kind of goes with the automatic file backup. So what happens with a cloud-based file management like OneDrive is that you're often going into it, you're changing that file, you're making it different than before because you're maybe taking a template and you're sending it to a new client. So you can't take this Word document that you already set up and you send it to another client for a proposal with the other company's name on it. So you change the name of it, you change what's in there, things like that. Well, maybe something gets messed up. Maybe there's a table or there's a particular image or something that you put on that Word document, or you have a formula in an Excel file that you need to send out. You send this Excel file out multiple times a week, and you have formulas already set up, and this is something you use all the time. And for some reason, for no reason, the formula is broken. You put in your value that you need in there, and it's not calculating as it has been for the last several years. What's going on? What could have happened? Well, with file version history and automatic file backup, number one, you can see who made changes to the Excel document and when. You can see if somebody came in, they changed a value, maybe accidentally hit that backspace in terms of the formula. That formula is gone. They didn't mean to, just what happened. So you can find out, number one, who did it, when they did it, literally date and time when it happened. And then you can look at your file version history and say, all right, this broke when this employee made this change. So I'm going to go look on my file version history and I'm going to restore it to before that happened. You hit the restore button, it shows you a copy of it. You look for the formula, boom, it's right there. Excellent. This is all part of your Microsoft 365 subscription. This is all part of what OneDrive has the capability of doing now. You can use OneDrive in the cloud. You don't have to have Word installed on your computer. Say you're on vacation or you're visiting family, whatever the situation may be, and you need to pull up something for work, it's work related, and you need to borrow somebody's computer, but they don't have Microsoft Office installed on their computer. You don't have to worry about that. You log into your portal, you have OneDrive available to you. If it's a Word doc, if it's Excel, if it's a PowerPoint, it doesn't make any difference. It will open in your browser, and then you can see the file version history. You can do everything that you need to do right there from the browser. All right, so that's it for OneDrive for right now. Moving on to Microsoft Teams. Teams is chat. You're fine. Teams is chat. It's chat, but for business. It's to keep everybody in the loop. Teams has been heavily prevalent in this COVID era that we're in, this pandemic era that we're in. It was lightly used prior to the pandemic. It has been heavily used since, just like Zoom, and so many other different things. But it's to keep everybody in communication, even if you're not all in the same office. Video and audio conferencing, like Zoom, but it's more robust. Screen sharing, schedule meetings, file sharing, and again, real-time collaboration. Literally being in the same project at the same time. Literally having a Word document or an Excel document in Teams as you're both working on it. And you're seeing the live updates as they go. You're getting notification that somebody made a change to a document that you're in a group with. It's an incredibly robust piece of software, and it comes with your Microsoft 365 subscription. It comes with that $5 a month subscription. Now there are higher tiers. There are things that you can send with that you can do to be more of an enterprise level for your Microsoft 365 subscription. But this $5 a month subscription gets you all the things that we're talking about today, including Teams.
I minimize it every day.
Teams?
Yeah, I don't
Microsoft forced it out
Mm-hmm.
just around the time of the pandemic. It just forced it out because it can be used personally as well.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, we're talking about how your business can use it, and it is absolutely a business friendly and really a really great business asset. We use it As an IT company, obviously, we use it every single day to chat internally, to conference call, to share screens. I literally every single day, multiple times a day. It's primarily how we stay in communication as a team, especially when it's a situation of, even if you're sitting in the same cubicle block, it's like, hey, look at my screen. Now you could get up and go and breathe on somebody and look on them and look at what they've got on their screen. Or they can just hit share screen and you can literally say that. You can talk amongst the cubicle block to see, hey, did you see this? What do I do when this comes up? Blah, blah, blah. Those kinds of things. This is instantaneous. And all you gotta do is log into it. And there's mobile and desktop versions as well. So if somebody calls you on Microsoft Teams and you're out of the office, say you're going to get lunch, they don't know that. They didn't see that you left or whatever. So they call you on Microsoft Teams. Your Teams will ring on your mobile app and you can answer the call per user. You can say you're running late to a meeting, but it's a Teams meeting and you were going to get on remotely, right? You just pull up your mobile app, get into the meeting, so you're not missing any part of the meeting. You're just a few minutes late, no problem. You're able to say, hey, I'm here. I'm listening to what you got going on. Then you're good. You get out of the car, you're situated, you can hear everything, it's on speakerphone. Then you sit down at your desk, which is really where you wanted to do the Teams meeting anyway. So you just pull up Microsoft Teams and you say, switch to my desktop. So it takes your call, your Teams call, and just boop, now you're on your desktop. You can use your computer camera instead of having to deal with your phone camera and setting it up and putting books behind it or whatever you need to do. You just switch the device. Now it's on your desktop. And then maybe you need to leave that meeting just a little bit early because you got another meeting. Switch it back to your phone, get in the car, drive away. It was all real time. To do. Microsoft To Do. To Do is a list maker. That's it. That's the short and long of it. It's a task list maker. Some people live and die by lists. Sometimes they write them on paper. Sometimes they have them in a planner. Sometimes they post them on the refrigerator. Those are all good things. These are ways to remember what it is that you need to do, because you have so many things to do. Nowadays, there's so many different things to do that you can't always keep those lists in your brain. So you need to be able to get them jotted down when you need to. And that's what Microsoft To Do does. But it does it on an elevated level because, well, let me go to my points, I guess. So you keep organized across all your devices. You can add to a list with your voice. You can share your list. Yeah, typo. You can share your list with your team members and collaborate. So if it's a project that you're working on in business, you want to be able to have more than one person on this list of things to do. And those people can add things to the list. You made the list, and these are the 4 things that I know that we need to do for this project. And then you share that list with somebody else, and you can look at this list in Microsoft Teams. You can share this with somebody else, and they can say, oh, okay, well, I know 4 more things that need to be done on this list. All right, fantastic. So they're able to add it. And then as these things get done, what you've collaborated with, you just check the box. It tells you who checked the box, when they checked the box, and you know that it's done. So you don't have to worry about it anymore. Oh, and you also get notified. So, hey, somebody said, nope, that's like, we're all done here. Don't need to worry about that anymore. Or if you have a list with somebody and they added something or multiple things to a list, you get notified. So-and-so added this to the list of things for this project. Great. I'll take a look when I can on my phone, on my tablet, on my desktop. It's really as basic as that, but it's really, really functional. I used To Do to make my list of things that I wanted to talk about today. I was able to check them off. You can make sub lists too. So you've got your list of the thing that you want to do. And then within that category, like I wanted to talk about managed services. And then I wanted to talk about particular things about managed services. So I put those things in the list. And when you're coming up with a presentation like this, say you need to do a presentation, say you need to talk, have a meeting with somebody, you don't always think of everything you need to talk about right then and there. It's kind of throughout your day as you're going. And if you have it on your phone, it's easy to pull up. And you can say, oh, I need to add this to the list of things I need to talk about. Boom, 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 boom. Or add this to the list. Boom, automatically goes in there. That's very helpful for me when I'm driving. Be able to use the voice command and say, add this to this list. And then I don't have to worry about it. Oh, and you can say, make it due tomorrow, or make it due on Friday, or next week, or next month, whatever. You can set due dates, you can set reminders. Remind me tomorrow that I need to get dog food after I leave work, but before I go home. Because maybe you won't be thinking about that tomorrow when you leave work, right? Before you would write it on your hand or your paper, whatever the situation may be, and you may still do that. Redundancy is a good thing. Keep multiple copies of things. That's definitely a good thing in our line of work, but it's not as necessary to write it down in so many places if you literally have it on all your devices and all you've done is put that information on one device. Yeah, so you put your app on your phone. Exactly. So your email login is going to be the same for Microsoft Teams, is going to be the same for Microsoft To Do, is going to be the same for all of the Microsoft 365 apps. If we go a little bit more in depth, and maybe you do have a server, an on-premise server for your business, and you have your user for that on-premise server, and that's different than your email password, but you still have Microsoft 365. There are ways to merge that, hybrid models and completely taking your server to the cloud so that you are eliminating everything. So when you get on your computer, it's one password. And when you get on Microsoft 365, it's the same password. And all the apps within, same password. When that password expires, which hopefully it's set to expire, should be set to expire, you only change it once. Everything in you're accessing everything with one password. Now, there should be multi-factor authentication. So sometimes when you log in, you have to do your authentication and make that work. But there's also a great deal of retention typically in these things to say, I recognize this device is connecting to this account. So you don't have to do the multi-factor authentication all the time. That's where regular password storage and password changing frequently is incredibly beneficial. And it's just standard protocol these days to make sure that those things are expiring, to make sure even those trusted devices, you have a good protocol of locking your device when you get up from it. I do it at home. I do it at the office. Every time I get up from my desk, it's Windows L, locks my computer. Nobody can get in that doesn't know my password. And it's just become it's like as soon as I get up, it's the button. I hit those buttons and I don't get up until then. So that's what I wanted to talk about in regard to Microsoft 365. And old Office versus new Office. There's a heck of a lot difference between how there are companies right now that are still running the 97 Windows or the Office 97 through 2003 versions of a document. You got to update that. That's years ago. It's security risk from that standpoint. But there's still companies that are using 2007, 2013, 2016. 2016 and 2013 are still okay. 16 is a lot more okay. 19, blah, blah, blah. You don't have to worry with Microsoft 365. You don't have to worry about what version you're on. You always have the most recent version. Okay. So that's the way that Microsoft Office has changed, the biggest way. And that's what you should be on. So next, I wanted to talk about old way versus new way on your phones. very, very frequently these days, we are still walking into a new client or even an existing client, and we have these old ComDial gigantic phones with like maybe a mismatched handset cable, and it's all completely tangled. And so when they answer the phone, like they rip the handset off the desk, or they can only use speakerphone because their handset is completely trashed. And that's what they have because they know where the buttons are and they know how to transfer calls and all these different things. And then you go into their network closet and it's just like this mess of different cables. It looks like it's from like the late 1800s. It's not. It's way more recent than that. But you think it's just from so old, and there's dust and cobwebs and right, and that's what's handling their phone calls coming in. Sometimes that stuff gets pretty hot too. Like so you go and it's like it takes a room just for this stuff, not completely separate from their network and all the stuff that's important. It's just their phones. They have 5 users and they need a room for that system. Well, there's things that can be changed from that. Now, some people have upgraded that old phone system and they've changed to a on-premise VoIP, voice over IP. So on-premise VoIP versus hosted VoIP, okay? On-premise is not that old stuff. It's newer. It maybe has a call manager that's rack mounted in your network rack and things like that. Those are okay. You're kind of up to date if you have an on-premise VoIP, but you don't really even need that now. You can, but you don't need it because you can take it hosted. Hosted, what does hosted mean? It means cloud, right? Cloud is everything. And if you look at your definitions, it tells you what cloud is. So if you've upgraded recently to on-premise VoIP, you're partially there. You've got HD voice, high definition voice, so a lot better than that old handset. You have maybe dashboard access. If you're on premise, you can get dashboarded into a Mitel system or a ShoreTel system or something like that to control your call flow, hunt groups, those kinds of things. Maybe you even have soft phones. That basically is just an app on your computer that you can take your call, make your calls and take your calls from your computer. You don't even really need a handset. That's what an on-premise system can do. Hosted VoIP allows uptime in the event of power or internet outage, okay? So if you have that on-prem VoIP, you have all those benefits. This is all great, unless the power goes out, which we dealt with just last week. Downtown, primarily, and all over the place, but it majorly affected downtown. And if you don't have power, you can't access your dashboard for your on-premise VoIP system or your old call manager system. You can't access it because there's no power to it, and so you can't forward your phones to where they need to go, and you're basically dead in the water. If people are calling, they're just gonna have to leave a voicemail because that's likely digital. Maybe, hopefully, it's not stored on-premise. So hosted VoIP is HD voice. It's dashboard access from anywhere. Okay, so if you don't have power, you can get on your phone, get into your dashboard of your phone system, forward your calls to where you need it to go, or just receive the calls from your mobile app in your pocket. So your office phone becomes an app on your phone, and that app is already ready to go. You're good to go. You can open this app and start making calls literally from your office. You can set your phone there, and then when a call comes into your office, your phone rings. It's literally that simple. It's happening all the time. Soft phones, again, not just your desktop though, as we're talking about the mobile app. Mobile app. Okay, perfect. So the big question when we talk about going from an old phone system to a new phone system, if my internet goes down, will my phones go down? The answer is technically no, because you have the ability to have an app on your phone. If the power goes out and all the mobile networks go out, you have bigger problems than your phones at that point. Just because of our infrastructure, it would be kind of a doomsday scenario if we didn't have cellular service. That infrastructure is at least a good plan B. So likely what happens specifically around here is we get a power outage and it lasts for hopefully no more than a couple of hours. Worst case scenario, like 12 hours. But you know, these things happen all the time. We've got another big storm coming through, a tropical storm coming through. This is one of the most fortunate times when we don't live in a tropical area here in Ohio, Northwest Ohio. So we don't, you know, we don't see those effects in the way that a lot of other areas are. But in that same way, you have the ability to control your phones and to have a lot quicker uptime, because not all of your clients or customers may be experiencing that power outage, right? So they still need to be able to get a hold of you. You still need to be able to communicate with them. Because your power's out doesn't mean that they are even a few blocks away. So what do? Hosted VoIP takes care of that. Now, RCI is not a specific provider, but we partner with a great company that handles this for our clients. And we work with this company and our clients to achieve this. Doug, how am I on time?
We maybe have maybe 10 minutes here to wrap up.
Okay, fantastic. Then voice over IP also includes eFax. It can include eFax. All faxes come to the intended user instead of a general fax machine. Faxes can be sent to traditional faxes through email. So you can you can email a fax machine number, like a fax number, and it'll print on their fax machine if you want to. If that has to be how you do it. And then you only print what is absolutely necessary. So eFax sidecars typically with a voice over IP solution. Now you can get eFax outside of voice over IP, but usually your voice over IP providers have that eFax functionality, and it has taken several of my clients away from this gigantic copier that they really only use to fax things, and they move that out and maybe put a couch in there. And now eFax just goes to the intended recipients and you're good to go. And then I wanted to briefly touch on sending bulk email or a newsletter to legally send. And I mean this from the aspect of, we've talked about email and the cloud and all of these different things. But sometimes you need to be able to get in touch with your clients and your customers, right? A little bit sooner and a little bit in a sort of a bulk way, right? Well, to send from your individual email, you could get red flagged, right? So the old way was to just send it from your individual email. Now there are things in place to be able to legally send email to thousands of people. What do I mean by legally? Recipients can easily unsubscribe. To send out bulk email is only legal if the recipient has the ability to unsubscribe right there from the email. Okay. Your email can come from a general mailbox, info@yourcompany.com. Free accounts can have up to 2,000 recipients. So you can pay zero money and be able to send out to 2,000 recipients. And a lot of small businesses don't have 2,000 recipients. This is good for newsletters or just keeping your client or customer list informed. Your email account will get red flagged for sending illegal bulk email. And it's cloud-based, so you can design and send your email from anywhere. In summary, you can be secure, efficient, you can have a forecasted technology budget, you can have backup, and a trusted ally for support when you need it. That's the way to go. The way to go is to have things managed proactively. The old way is to maybe not have all of these things and just wait for doomsday, and you got to recover from there. That power outage that happened last week, and as it should be, as an IT company for RCR Technology Group, we were 100% operational immediately. The power went out. We didn't have any power at our office. It didn't matter. My entire staff was 100% operational instantaneously. Digital phones, we were able to all take calls from our clients. We were all able to communicate with our clients from mobile hotspots, from our homes that still had power. We had internet connection there. We were immediately able to service our clients the entire time, because really it was downtown that was having the issue. A lot of our clients aren't downtown, and they still needed to be able to communicate with us and us to communicate with them. We were instantaneously at 100% because we use everything that I talked about today. We use managed services, we use Microsoft 365, we use hosted voice over IP, we use eFax, we use all of these things. The goal really in 2021 for any business is to be 100% operational in the event of power internet outage or a pandemic. If you have to start staying at home because you can't come into the office, how operational are you? That's it for today. You guys have your journals. For anybody that is on the webinar, you can email me and I will hand deliver a journal to you if you'd like. So just email me at what you see in the webinar screen as well. And then also, if you want a copy of this presentation to be able to review, I will gladly email that to you as well. It's small enough that it's emailable. I emailed it to Doug earlier.
Thanks.
I don't know if we have enough time for Q&A.
I'll just ask one quick question. If you two have, I haven't seen anything come in from the online audience, but as far as ransomware goes, do you think that small businesses don't take that seriously enough, thinking that the people, the hackers who do that are really only targeting larger businesses?
Absolutely. And I think that everyone is guilty of not taking it seriously enough until they're affected by it. It's really it's kind of the human nature of it, right? It's like, oh, that seems terrible. Colonial Pipeline, the entire city of Baltimore, right? That all seems terrible. But like, my stuff's fine, so on with life, right? Until that one day where you come in and somebody in your organization had a pop-up and they're like, what is this? It looks like something that's familiar, and boom, their computer and the entire network is taken over with ransomware, and they have this thing that comes up and it says, all of your data has been encrypted and you have to pay this amount of money to get it back. They're like, is this real? What's going on? First off, does that small business have somebody to call and take care of it? And what could they have done to prevent it? So yeah, answer in short is yes, nobody takes it seriously enough until it actually happens, but it is a real threat and it can be devastating. So to defend against it it's not like defending against some random thing that could happen. It is happening literally to everyone. It doesn't matter the size of your organization. It just so happens to be in the news when it's the Colonial Pipeline or the entire city of Baltimore or something like that. That's what hits the news. But this is happening every single day to small businesses, even here in Findlay, Ohio. Even if you're not a target, even if you don't think you're a target, they can just happen upon what you've got going on.
Yeah. Any other questions? All right. Kevin, thank you for your time. Thank you for coming in today.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks to those of you tuning in online. Well, I'm going to disconnect right now.